Have you ever wondered if being single as you age could actually be the key to true freedom and happiness? As we get older, many of us start to question whether it's better to be on our own or to have someone by our side. This is a question that comes with profound emotional and philosophical implications, shaping how we view our later years. But here's a truth that society rarely addresses, a truth that could completely shift your perspective. Being single in your later years might just be the key to unlocking real freedom and joy. In this video, we will challenge the common myths about relationships in old age, explore the surprising reasons why embracing solitude might be one of the greatest blessings you can experience, and redefine what love and companionship truly mean to you. By the end of this video, I promise you'll gain a fresh perspective on the future, one that empowers and inspires you. If this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more life-changing insights. Let's take a deeper look at the truth behind relationships and personal fulfillment. In today's society, romantic love has been elevated to a near-sacred standard, often seen as the ultimate goal for every individual. Those who choose to live alone are frequently viewed as incomplete or unsuccessful, as if having someone by your side defines success. And a life without a partner is a life devoid of meaning. But when we stop to truly examine the world around us, we realize that this ideal is nothing but a myth, a structure many blindly follow. Despite the fact that the truth is right in front of us, humans are born free, live freely, and die freely. Everything else, every relationship, every societal expectation, is just circumstance, an illusion created by external pressures. When you take a step back and observe, you can see how many people are trapped in relationships they no longer desire. They continue pretending to be happy, because admitting that they could live better on their own would mean acknowledging a failure in the eyes of society. Relationships often form out of inertia, a habit ingrained since childhood. It's just what we do, a pattern that has been normalized for so long. Society, rather than questioning this norm, praises it, pushing people to maintain emotionally unsatisfying relationships. The love they sell to us isn't true love. It's a cage dressed up in illusions. It doesn't elevate you. It holds you back. Of course, in the beginning, everything seems bright and shiny. But when the flames of infatuation fade, all that's left is the hazy smoke of habit, disguised as commitment. Why must we avoid being labeled as lonely? Why do we fear facing the discomfort of truly living alone? The price we pay to avoid this confrontation with ourselves is far too high. The truth is, we are all ultimately alone in this world. The story often begins with attraction, a process that has turned into an almost absurd spectacle. What was once a search for true connection has now become a performance. We seem to be playing a game, where the goal is not genuine companionship, but rather a shallow display to capture attention. We've abandoned the pursuit of deep, authentic connections and instead entered a social game where the winner is the one who lies or performs the best, crafting the most perfect online image. And we call that love. It's fascinating how so many relationships begin on a foundation of lies. We construct an image of ourselves, often far from reality, trying to impress from the very first moment. We tell jokes, present the best versions of ourselves, and then, when everything falls apart, we wonder why. What do we expect from a relationship built on lies, when we ourselves were part of the deception from the start? If you believe that love in adulthood can fix everything, let me share a painful truth with you. Love doesn't fix anything. In fact, it often complicates things further. What we call romantic love is, in reality, just a socially accepted form of possession. We've been taught that love is a necessity, and to be happy, you need someone by your side. But here's the real issue. If you need someone to be happy, then you've already lost. You've lost the connection with yourself and given away your power. The real problem isn't living alone. It's living with someone who makes you feel empty, disconnected from your true self in ways you never feel when you are by yourself. As you'll come to understand, this is the true tragedy. People often say you will be happy when you find your other half. But isn't that a deeply offensive concept? It implies that you come into this world incomplete, as if you were born with a missing essential piece. and that you need someone else to make you whole. I would rather live without that other half. Society pushes people into relationships with the same force and persistence that it urges us to buy life insurance. If you don't have a partner, they treat you like some strange anomaly, as though something is wrong with you. They label you a social failure. But here's the absurdity. The real absurdity isn't living alone. It's seeking companionship out of fear of judgment. Romantic love has ceased to be a true choice. It has turned into an artificial need. You don't love because you want to. You love because society has conditioned you to believe that you must. True love, however, doesn't arise from the fear of loneliness. It blossoms from the freedom that comes when you make peace with yourself. The real reason many people stay in empty relationships is because they fear loneliness. But here's the paradox: most couples, even though they are physically together, are often lonelier in their relationships than when they are single. As someone once said, if you feel lonely when you're by yourself, you're in a toxic relationship. This is the lie we live in. Couples don't come together because they genuinely want to be with each other. They come together because they can't bear the thought of living alone. In these relationships, emotional dependence replaces real affection, and surveillance replaces trust. If you feel the need to know where your partner is at all times, you're not in a relationship, you're in an emotional prison. The truth is that love isn't about finding someone to fill an empty space within you. It's about cultivating a connection with yourself first and foremost. Understanding that only when you are whole within yourself can you create the foundation for a truly fulfilling relationship. Until then, the relationships you enter into will be more about avoiding discomfort and fear than about authentic, meaningful connection. Living alone doesn't signify failure or incompleteness. It signifies strength, independence, and the courage to face yourself, something that many fear. In embracing solitude, you find the freedom to choose love for the right reasons, not out of social pressure or fear of judgment. True companionship, when it comes, will be a choice that enhances your life, not one that fills a void or creates dependence. Infidelity has become a shadow that haunts every interaction, and it's easy to see why society has fractured. With fidelity now seen as the exception rather than the rule, we spend our lives checking phones, looking over our shoulders, and living in constant fear that our partner may be deceiving us. This is what love has turned into: a suffocating relationship driven by anxiety and suspicion. What happens to a relationship when the deepest fear is that your partner will grow bored or seek someone else? If you find yourself checking your partner's phone, there's an unspoken truth that no one dares to confront. The relationship is already over. No one wants to admit it because it's easier to pretend everything is fine, to wear a mask of normalcy and avoid confronting the reality that things have fallen apart. But here's the bitter pill. When you're trapped in this cycle of doubt, even if your partner hasn't done anything wrong, the damage has already been done, especially if they are attractive or active on social media. You get stuck in an endless loop of suspicion. It's no longer about infidelity. The real issue is that infidelity feels almost inevitable in our society. We live in a world where temptation has become commodified, and technology has made deceit quick and effortless with just a swipe of the screen. Yet, we continue to cling to the illusion of fidelity, pretending we still live in a time where knights in shining armor rescue distressed damsels. If you're still watching this video and find these insights useful, feel free to drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. If infidelity is so common, or if we've all been victims of it at some point, why do we continue to believe in the myth of eternal fidelity? Why does this concept remain the ultimate standard? Let's be honest. Love based on control is a lie, and fidelity enforced by obligation is a form of torture, something no one should ever accept. When sex, one of life's greatest pleasures, turns into a battlefield, it's no longer about desire but about the fear of breaking an unspoken agreement. But what kind of life is that? What kind of relationship can you build on fear and restraint? The truth is that when we let suspicion and control replace trust, we destroy the very foundation of what love is supposed to be. True love isn't about clinging to someone out of fear. It's about mutual respect, freedom, and the understanding that your worth doesn't hinge on another person's actions. When we stop seeing love as a battle to be won or lost, and instead see it as a shared journey of growth and exploration, only then can we break free from the cycle of insecurity and possessiveness that threatens to consume us. Nature teaches us a lesson that is often overlooked in the human world. Look at animals. None of them feel bound to stay with a single mate for life. Even if they do form bonds, they socialize freely with others of their kind, enjoying companionship without guilt or fear. They mate, they experience pleasure, and they do so without the heavy burden of wondering if they are betraying anyone. Humans, however, are the only species that has turned sex into a daily obligation, one that must be shared with the same person, whether we want to or not. We call it commitment. But is that truly freedom? Is that the life we should be living? Shouldn't sex be as natural and free as food, a basic joy to be experienced without guilt or restriction? Why do we let outdated societal norms dictate how we experience something as fundamental as our desires? Those who engage in casual sexual relationships, always with mutual consent, are often seen as living authentically, in harmony with nature. But this sexual freedom, the choice to experience pleasure without attachments, quietly threatens those who are emotionally bound. If you choose to experience intimacy freely, you're often labeled as uncaring, cold, or distant. And for women, the judgment is harsher, sometimes even devaluing them. But the real immorality isn't in embracing the freedom to explore pleasure. It's in pretending to be pure while secretly longing to deceive the person you're with. So, what holds us back from being true to ourselves? It's the societal norms that even those who preach them don't follow. It's the hypocrisy of those who praise fidelity but secretly long to break every rule they impose on others. I don't advocate for unchecked sexual freedom, as that often leads to obsession and emotional imbalance. But I do believe there is nothing wrong with enjoying sex when it feels right to you, as long as you believe it aligns with your truth. We've been taught that sex outside a committed relationship is sinful. But what's truly sinful is forcing ourselves into relationships we don't truly want or need, just because society tells us to. The demand for forced fidelity is perhaps the most absurd prison we've created for ourselves. And it is built on a lie. Those who preach the most about monogamous marriages are often the ones who struggle most with their own instincts. They are burdened by chains they refuse to break, even though they know deep down that they are suffocating. The truth is simple: monogamy, when imposed, creates tension rather than love. Human desire is as natural as the need to breathe, and repressing it doesn't make it disappear. The more you try to suppress what is natural, the more it will consume you. Let's rethink the message I shared in a previous video about the dangers of neglecting our own needs. When you choose to share your life with someone, it should be because you're sharing a vision, a common purpose, and mutual understanding, not because you believe you need them to complete yourself. Love becomes fragile when it's rooted in dependence. When one person's happiness hinges entirely on the other. Relationships should not be about sacrificing oneself or losing your individuality for the sake of someone else. True love is about connection, respect, and shared goals. The problem isn't having a partner, but rather the belief that lifelong commitment is mandatory simply because society says it is. That belief, that pressure to conform, creates a formula for unhappiness. It's fascinating how some people still believe that following these societal norms will lead to emotional success. Often, these are the same people who blindly trust governments and organizations to protect their well-being. Even when there is overwhelming evidence to the contrary, true freedom begins when you stop playing the game that society has set up for couples. If reading this makes you uncomfortable, perhaps it's because deep down, you know that I'm right. People often claim that loyalty is the highest form of love, but what they fail to recognize is that loyalty, in many cases, is rooted in fear. Fear of losing the other person, fear of boredom, fear that they will find someone else who can provide what you do. Modern love, for many, is nothing more than a performance of commitment, masking deep insecurity. How can you call that love if it requires constant surveillance? We live in a culture where checking phones, explaining silences, questioning motives, and manipulating situations to feel secure has become the norm. When distrust becomes the foundation of a relationship, passion slowly dies. All that remains is routine, being together because it's expected, or because a child has been conceived. That's not love, that's stagnation. Love should never be seen as an exclusive contract bound by rules and obligations. Instead, it should be seen as a mutual agreement based on respect, where each person understands that freedom is an essential part of life and not a threat to the relationship. True freedom is necessary for personal growth, and once we embrace it, we start to realize that relationships evolve not because they're chaotic or uncommitted, but because desire is no longer suppressed or treated as taboo. This transformation goes against societal expectations. Of course, society has made us so afraid of losing a partner that many people end up suffocating the ones they love with excessive control. The belief that control ensures loyalty is a dangerous myth. In reality, control only breeds resentment, and resentment eventually erodes the foundation of any relationship. The need for validation and affection from a partner, for many, is like a coin that inevitably loses value over time as real desire, whether emotional or physical, returns. Most people will deny it or hide it, leading to inner conflict. What may have started as an open and honest relationship slowly becomes a simmering lie, choking the bond that was once full of life. True love doesn't need walls or confinement. If you have to imprison someone to keep them by your side, you've already lost them emotionally. The bird feels the weight of the cage and longs to return to freedom, not to be trapped in bars that hold it back. If you're still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment too below to let me know you're still following along. Thank you for your precious time. In a society that upholds the notion of relationships, being single is often seen as a threat to the social order. A person walking alone represents independence, someone unafraid of loss and unbound by the narrow confines of predetermined roles. This autonomy challenges the very fabric of a society that insists everyone conform to traditional relationship norms. The truth is, those who choose to walk alone symbolize the freedom to exist authentically, untethered by the expectations of others. And for some, this freedom is more dangerous than anything else. Throughout our lives, we are conditioned to believe that living alone is a failure, something that must be fixed. We are programmed to think that life without a partner is incomplete, an unfinished project awaiting resolution. Yet, the reality is that being single is not an accident. It is a conscious choice, one that requires courage and is often only embraced by those willing to confront their deepest fears. Ironically, those who criticize single life are often the ones trapped in relationships that no longer serve them, relationships they carry like burdens they fear to put down. The idea that being a couple should be the default position is a societal construct that limits our growth and perpetuates unhealthy dynamics. The true natural state of humanity is freedom, the freedom to be oneself, regardless of societal expectations. Animals remind us of this truth in their behavior. Wolves hunt in packs but sleep alone. Lions live in prides but do not form long-lasting emotional bonds. They function with an inherent understanding of independence that we often overlook. Only humans can transform love into a permanent contract, a never-ending cycle that robs them of their most basic human right, the right to exist unbound. As Emma Goldman once said, "The worst kind of slavery is the slavery that the slave loves his chains." And this is precisely how we live today, loving our relationships because they provide a sense of security, even though deep down, we know that this security is nothing more than a cleverly designed prison. Couples, in many ways, serve as a net, a web of promises that seem to offer stability, but ultimately lead to emotional instability. The irony is that single life is often seen as a problem, especially for women, who face pressure to find a partner as soon as possible before time runs out. When someone remains single for an extended period, society tends to pity them, as if they are missing an important aspect of life. What they fail to see is that the single person is not suffering. Instead, they are observing from the outside, watching others drown in relationships long past their expiration dates, seeing couples trapped in bitterness, ensnared in cycles of blame and obligation. Sometimes, I find comfort in witnessing these couples criticize my single life, even though they themselves are shackled by chains they refuse to acknowledge. The societal pressure to have a partner does not stem from love but from fear. The single person represents a threat to the current order. If someone can live without a partner, it forces others to question why they cannot. The single person becomes living proof that love is not mandatory. And for some, freedom is more fulfilling than the safety a partner may offer. This is a truth that is deeply uncomfortable for a society obsessed with romance. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please leave a 3 in the comments below to let me know you're still with me. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. Living alone is not the absence of love. It is the manifestation of self-respect. It is a conscious choice that doesn't involve negotiating your freedom, nor does it require trading your time or body for fleeting illusions of connection. It is a rejection of participating in the drama of attraction and possession, a never-ending game in which everyone pretends to be indifferent while competing for attention. This type of relationship is inherently irrational, paranoid, and self-doubting in nature. Choosing to live alone means stepping away from that farce. It means no longer pretending to be something you are not. There is no need to prove anything to anyone. The single person doesn't need to seduce anyone. They simply live. They do not fight for attention, but instead exist in their own space. Oscar Wilde famously said, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance." If a relationship does not contribute to personal growth or expansion, then it is not love, it is merely an anchor. True love should enhance your life, not define it. Solitude allows relationships to exist freely, without contracts, emotional debts, or expectations of ownership. These natural relationships, when based on respect and honesty, are not threats to freedom, they are expressions of it. They are genuine, spontaneous, and rooted in true connection, which is the true purpose of love. When embraced in its purest and most profound form, solitude becomes a sincere and unwavering act of honesty with oneself and the world. It is a deliberate and conscious decision to no longer deceive oneself with false promises of eternal love that can never be fulfilled. It is a strong acceptance of the truth that love is not about possession, control, or clinging to others, but about the freedom to love unconditionally without needing to possess. It is the ability to enjoy life and experiences without being bound by rigid promises or expectations. Knowing that true connection does not require self-sacrifice. Living alone is not a phase or a temporary state. It is a destination where you recognize your own worth and strength. Free from the pressures of external expectations, this destination is called freedom, and it is a place that only a few truly reach. As most people become lost in relationships they should never have started, relationships that distract them from themselves, their growth, and their happiness. At its core, solitude is not a punishment or a flaw. It is a profound opportunity. It is an opportunity to live fully, to explore all aspects of oneself, and to discover what truly brings happiness, free from the commitments and unrealistic expectations that often accompany the complexities of romantic relationships. Life is not about adhering to narrow societal standards or seeking approval from others. It is about mastering your own journey, creating your own story, and deciding what brings peace and fulfillment. If that path includes walking alone for a time, then let it be a journey of freedom, self-discovery, personal growth, and a deepened love for oneself. Take a moment to reflect on the choices you've made in life and the path that lies ahead. Think about the messages you've received regarding love, relationships, and your self-worth. True happiness, after all, is not measured by the presence or absence of a partner, but by your ability to live authentically, to honor yourself, and to lead a life that aligns with your inner truth. The key lies not in being single or being in a relationship, but in being honest with yourself, finding peace within, and walking a path that nourishes your soul. Thank you so much for joining me today. Together, we've delved into some profound and meaningful perspectives. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What have you taken away from today's message? Is there something that resonated deeply with you? Something that touched your heart or shifted your perspective? Please share one insight you've gained today that you'll carry forward into your own life. I'm truly eager to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you found this video helpful, feel free to leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss any future messages filled with encouragement, guidance, and sacred love. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.